Is this thing working? Finally? Are we live? I don't even know if we're live. I'm just going to start. What's happening, everybody? I hope everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. It's R9 chat. So we're going to be talking about the Yamaha R9. Yeah, exhaust and tuner on the thing, and it's a heck of a thing to ride. But everything isn't always as glittery as you might expect. So I'm going to be talking some of the good things, some of the and maybe some wish list type stuff about the R9 that I've got. If you're new to the channel, this is my little slice of YouTube. Gives me an opportunity to visit with you guys one-on-one directly. So if you've got any questions about any of the bikes that you've seen on the channel, any of the ride reviews, feel free to interact. Right here is a great place to do that. I've also got some behind the scenes type stuff that I'll share with you guys and, share with you guys upcoming videos, just basically, interaction type stuff. So anyway, diving into this, got a little bit of a short show for you guys tonight, but we are going to be talking about the R9 as it is now. Finally, exhaust and a tune. And I want to talk about just how good the bike is. And I also want to talk about some things that still, it's not like a gripe. I don't want to get there with this bike, but on the live show, see, here's the thing. I can expand on certain topics that I just either couldn't get to or that just didn't fit in to whatever narrative I was talking about. And the latest video that I posted was the R9 now with exhaust and the tune. And in that video, I mean, I'm just talking all the love. I'm giving that bike so much of a tongue bath. But that being said, what I do want to say is that the R9, as good as it is with a pipe and tune, it's not a replacement for a GSX-R 750, 600, R6. It's not really a replacement for the 636 as it is in 2025. Although that bike, the 636, is a lot closer to the R9 than the rest of the field, the old school super sport class bikes. So why is it not really a replacement? Well, one of the reasons is the engine. As good as the CP3 is, and it's amazing for what it is doing in the R9, if you come into the R9 with the sense that this bike is going to give the same kind of just screaming performance that those old school super sports did, it ain't gonna. Not by a long shot. And I'll even go so far as to say this. Even if you were to put the cams in this thing and basically just do everything to this bike, as good as it would be, it still would not be that old school super sport. And the reason why I say it like that is this class of bike is now really kind of cool. Back in the day, these bikes were nothing but 4-cylinder 600cc bikes, right? And then as classes evolve and devolve, if you will, it depends on how you want to look at it. But the reality is this. There was nothing really separating the Suzuki GSX-R 600, the Yamaha R 636 outside of the displacement there. There was nothing really separate. Oh, and the CBR, there was nothing separating them. And I got back from recording. One of the things that I was saying in that video is, if you're an alien and you were just plopped right in the middle of a motorcycle dealership that had all of those bikes there, looking around, you wouldn't be able to tell just based on architecture. So the cool thing about the R9 is that it offers up similar performance, in some cases more, some cases maybe not so much, but it gives you a certain amount of performance in a completely different way. And that is the cool part about the R9. it was never developed as a race bike the way that all the rest of the 600s were back in the day, or the GSXR 750 for that matter. And so you are never going to get that raw edged sense of all that is super sport out of the R9 because it was never designed for that. Neither was the KTM RCR 990, and neither was the Ducati V2 Panigale. And all you've got to do to figure out that you're not playing in the same game is park one of those bikes. Just blindly pick that one right you picked right there. Yeah, that one. Park it next to a GSXR 600. It looks like it could turn around and eat the GSXR 600 if size is what you're basing your comparison off of. Those bikes are physically smaller than the R9 or any of these other super middleweights now. But that's okay. You know, the big complaint back in the day and why so many people moved away from super sports, what you would consider to be a super sport today, is that they became less and less and less accommodating. You thought I was going to say comfortable, didn't you? Less and less accommodating. Now, the Gixxers are really good in that they offer up a nice, generous size rider triangle, but of the class, they offer up the most generous. The rest of those bikes are small. You get the sense that if you're over 5'8", you ain't gonna fit on one of those bikes. But if you're over 6 feet tall, you can hop onto any of the modern super middleweights and you'll feel comfortable because it's a bigger bike. And because a lot of folks that are that size were kind of pushed out of super sports back in the day, now they have a means to come back in if that's the kind of bike that they're still interested in. So it's hard to put this into a video. I'm talking about some of these topics in a video that I just got through filming, but I don't know if that one's going to make it to publication. I may redo that video and I don't know, maybe I don't know. We'll see about this. But the point of it is this. In that video, I'm chatting about, is the R9 a viable replacement for a GSXR 750, for example? No, it's not. It's not because it's not the same kind of motorcycle. It's going to get looped into this whole super sport thing, but it's not that bike. It just isn't. And unfortunately, if you want that kind of bike and you want a modern version of it, you only got one, and that's the 636. But even with that bike, you better be a smaller dude or gal because the spring rates are so soft on that bike. So from there, you just got the legacy bikes, which are GSXR 600 and GSXR 750 and CBR 600. And that's it. MV Agusta F3 doesn't count in this, and neither does the R6 because it's no longer available for sale as new. So for the guys that keep, and I hear this a lot, and I see this in a lot of comments, or I had seen it in a lot of comments, and a lot of these comments were pretty negative, and I understand that, but I don't really allow for a lot of that on my channel, so some of these got punted, but the ones that were just kind of mean-spirited, the ones that were definitely not in the sense of like hating on the bike, but like hating on the buyer. The thing is that the buyer of an R9 or a KTM RCR 990 or a V2 Panigale as it sits today is the same buyer that was buying 600cc super sports back in the day, or maybe even a GSXR 750 back in the day. But they want something different, or they want something that's just a little bit bigger. And that's where the R9 really shines. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick, and then we'll get back to it. If I can figure out how to work a computer here. Armax in. What's up? What's up, man? Saying Yamaha's looking and sounding good. I appreciate it. DM is in. I got the ball guy with the flex and the specs. I like it. Armax checking in. DM's checking in. Let's see. Armax smoking a beef shoulder. I am jealous. Very nice. Bruce saying we just got done eating pizza from a local place. We got a really good pizza place. down here. Meal prep night for me too. Chicken, shrimp, and steak. Very nice. I've got to get back in the habit of doing that. Love me some pizza. I could live off of pizza. That's my jam right there. Bruce saying RMAC. Oh, RMAC, I wrote a 675. That's right. Yeah, Bruce, or RMAC, Bruce is going to be all over you about that. Matt saying, where have you been? I was not able to film Tuesday. I had a food thing related deal whoop my butt. RMAC's checking in with Bruce. Let's see. DM's checking in with Matt. I like it. Gerald saying, Bald Mafia meeting in session. Sergeant at Arms has entered the chat. What's up, Gerald? My man. Hey, dude, seriously, the R9, it's good stuff, man. Pipe and tune. I cannot wait to bring this thing out. But I will say this about it. The R9, you know, talking about it being a replacement for a GSX-R 750 or 600, I don't think so. And I'll even take this a step further. I don't know that I can pace the R9 the way that I can my 750 or 600. Not yet anyway, but I'm close to it. And a lot of that has to do with gearing on that bike. It's real aggressive, but yet it's not. When you've got torque the way that the R9 makes torque, I've got to be careful with it because third gear, which, how do I explain this? Okay, so in the last video, you see me coming in to our favorite little S turn. Oh, here's some behind the scenes stuff for you. Okay, fun. Okay, so coming into our favorite S turn, there's another video that I had done. And I come into it in third gear. And I mean, I am hot. I bounce it off the rev limiter just as I'm starting to drop it into the, or just as I'm rolling off of the throttle as I'm dropping it into the corner. I get the bike on the side of the tire and I start rolling into the throttle hard. And the bike will start to lift the front tire and it'll haze the rear tire pretty good. And at first I thought it was the clutch slipping. Because the tag, I mean, from your point of view, the tag goes and comes back down, and the bike just kind of soaked it up. The chassis is real stable, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a minute." So I did the same thing. I went straight through. I kind of quit filming at that point. I went straight through that intersection, and it does the same kind of turn, but in the opposite way. And on that one, I went first and second gear, got it into third so I could drop it into the next right-hander in third. I roll into the throttle and it pulls the front tire up and gets a little dancy on me, just like the CBR 1000 RR did. Except I was cool with this bike doing it because the throttle mapping is so good. And that's when I figured out pretty quickly that playing around with this bike on the side of the tire and trying to play at the 9 to 10,000 RPM range where this bike is really making a lot of power, it's also still making a lot of torque because the torque curve is as flat as a pool table on this thing. And so it will get a little bit frisky. So the trick is to come in fourth gear and just use all the torque and let it rip. And it will still lift, it'll still float the front tire a little bit. When you're on the side of the tire and you're really aggressively driving out of the corner, when you're on the short side of the tire, it'll still bring the front of the bike up slightly. And I've also got to be careful with this bike because, again, the front end feel is really good, but this bike loves doing wheelies. And the thing is that it really likes doing wheelies when you're on the side of the tire. And that's something that in long sweepers, you just have to remember that you can't fan the throttle wide open as you're standing it up. You actually have to employ some throttle discipline with this bike and roll into the throttle as you're standing it up so that you don't get a little bit of a side lift out of it. And it'll do that. I mean, I had it get a little in fifth gear. It's on this latest video, and I don't know if I can even, anyway, at about 100 miles an hour, it'll start to, you'll feel it get a little bit light in the front. It may end up getting a steering stabilizer just to kind of calm it down a little bit. So I'm not getting a lot of movement, but it's It's good stuff. The R9, it's such a departure. And this is why it's so hard for me to put a video, like a ride along video together and talk about the R9 and the 750, because damn, they're such different bikes. Again, 750 smaller, makes more horsepower, lighter, rowdy in the different ways that the R9 can't be, but the R9 is rowdy in ways that the 750 could only dream to be. And it soaks up miles in a way that the 750 wouldn't be able to for a taller person or a bigger person. Doesn't affect me, but for different folks, that 750 or the 600 or any of the super sports that are out there, 600s, that is, they're just not going to be a good fit. Now that we have these bigger bikes, I love it. By the way, the R9, DM, where are you at in here? The R9, kid you not, now that it's piped and tuned in the more aggressive throttle map, feels exactly like the R1 coming out of a corner. Where the R1, when you're on the side of the tire, you're rolling into the throttle, looking through your corner, and you've got your spot, you can see your exit, and you really start to roll into the throttle. The R1 will get a little bit light. That's exactly what the R9 does. It mimics it, but the funny thing about it is that the R9 hits harder, and so you feel it differently. It's a killer bike, man. It is so much fun to ride, and it's in a way super forgiving. It's just that it's a bike that it will, if you want a leader bike, the R9 will cure you from wanting a leader bike if you don't want to be bothered with the extra power of the leader bike. This thing will do all of that fun stuff, and it's a blast doing it. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna check in with you guys. Let's see. Oh, DM saying the R9 has a nice growl and rasp now. Now it sounds exciting to ride. It is. Oh, dang it. You bring up a good point. Okay, check this out. So did I bring this up? Did I mention this? I don't think I did. The R9, now that I've removed all the foam that's underneath the front part of the lid on the gas tank, I removed all of that. And what that, it did two things. One is it got all of the stuff that was impeding airflow into the stock air box. It got rid of all of that. So there's that. And that is a legit thing on the R9 or on the MT09 or XSR. It doesn't matter. To get rid of all that foam, you'll pick up about 1.5 horsepower. It doesn't seem like it's a thing, but it's a real thing because it shrouds the intakes. But the other thing that it does is there's no more sound stuff in there. So you get the growl of the triple underneath you. And it is right underneath where the camera is, on my chin when I'm really getting knotted on that bike. And so because it's right there, you get this earful of intake growl that is awesome. So yeah, awesome bike. Let's see. You guys are checking in. I'm going to get past you guys real quick. RMAX hanging out with Bruce. Yeah, Bruce is thinking about that 675. It's a cool bike. I'll tell you what, if CF Moto ever started, developing the 675 for race use, that would be a dangerous motorcycle. Oh, hang on a second. Pilo Zen, what's up, man? Hope you're doing well. Let's see. Oh, Bruce is saying we have a couple of dealer demos coming up in my area soon. I'm going to get to test an MT09 and an R9. Oh, guys, behind the scenes. I got a chance to play with a bike today that I've been wanting to play with for so freaking long, and I finally got to. I got to do a ride and review on an MT07 today. Damn it. Okay, so here's the thing. Y'all know that I love me some GSX-8R. Anything with the 776 parallel twin, like the V-Strom, the 8S, the TT, all of those bikes, absolutely love them. But the 8S, the 8S platform, the platform, GSX 8 platform, is one side of a coin. The MT-07 is the other side. And guys, I'm not saying it's coming home with me. I'm not saying that bike's coming home with me. I'm just saying I had so much fun with that bike. There's some stuff off camera. I'm just saying that bike is a lot of fun to ride. And so anyway, I've got that ride review that's going to hit tomorrow morning, 6:30 in the morning. I get it. Okay, so the reason why I'm just like a little bit about that is because I had a lot of you guys telling me that I have somehow or another angered the motorcycle gods in that I haven't had a chance to ride an MT-07. And oddly enough, at the dealership, there's an MT-07 and an XSR 700. And I wanted to ride the MT-07 because of the way that bike was outfitted by the previous owner. It's got axle guards. It's got a frame cage on it. Basically, it is just an urban assault bike, right? And I didn't get a chance. I didn't adjust anything. I just literally grabbed the keys, got the bike, didn't even clean it up. I mean, it looks like kind of Mad Maxy, right? That thing was so much freaking fun. Look, and I even say this in the video. I'm happy to be proven wrong on anything. You know, it's a learning experience. Guys, y'all were right. For everybody that told me that I have been screwing up by not getting my leg over an MT-07, y'all were right. And here's the funny thing about this bike. I don't know what it is about that CP2 engine in that bike. It makes total sense. That engine in the R7 didn't really do a lot for me. So anyway, big shout out to you guys, my MT-07 brothers and sisters out there. Y'all were right. That bike is way more fun and way more capable than I thought that it was going to be. So just saying. Oh, hang on. Let me get back up in here. Oh, Plow was saying R9 did sound more like 675 after you put the exhaust in tune. Did you do the DNA air filter? No, I did not. And the reason why is this. There's no gain with that airbox. So the factory airbox, like I'll put it to you like this. The factory airbox on a Gixxer 600, like this is the length of it. It's about like this. It's big, and it's got two humongous holes up in the front of it, but it's about this long. The one on the MT-09s is a lot smaller. And so what I did is I cut the snorkels way back. I took about 6 inches off of the snorkels, rounded the edges, got that all cleaned up. And I am rocking the stock air filter because it's humongous, flows plenty of air. It's going to filter way better. But yeah, there is no reason to run a DNA air filter in a stock airbox because for whatever reason, airbox design, resonance, flow capacity, if you don't need more air, then an aftermarket air filter won't help you. And in this case, it literally will not help you in any way, shape, or form. DM say, wow, awesome, high praise. I'm telling you, it really is that good. Andrew's asking, well, I regret not getting an R6. I don't know. Depends on what you're into. If you've got a great look on a good look on a great deal, then I would probably say, yeah, go for it. But they're awesome bikes. Oh, Bruce saying I'm kind of worried about the more aggressive position on the true super sports. Man, it depends. Okay, so here's the thing. The smaller bikes, if you're a smaller person, it won't bother you. If you're a big dude, the littler bikes they might be a problem. The super middleweights really do bridge all of these gaps. And yeah, they race in super sport class, but man, they are a whole new breed of bike. And I'm telling you, they are really good. Again, and these are middleweights. Okay, look, it doesn't matter if my 750 just checks out on the R9. Doesn't matter, because the R9 does things that the 750 can't do, does things that the 600s can't do. This is kind of a weird scenario where it really is this sophisticated game of rock, paper, scissors when we're looking at R9, Gixxer 750, Gixxer 600, 636, the KTM, the Ducati, and all of them. Because every one of these bikes is going to do one thing better than the rest of the field. All of them. Gixxer 600 is going to do something better than everybody. The 636 is going to do something better than everybody. And so because there's a better than factor, whether it's objective or subjective, it does not matter. But it's the subjective that matters more than the objective, which is to say that stuff on a spec sheet or a data sheet or a dyno in a class that's not owned and ruled by outright horsepower, then it's the subjective things that make the difference. And in this case, this isn't a competition machine. So things like, how does it feel when you are just riding it down the street, which is where you're riding it because it is a street bike? How does it feel exiting corners? How does it make you feel when you're riding it? Do you feel like you've got good value for dollar? That's another thing. So there's so many things that come into this class that you cannot put down on paper, so to speak. And because you can't, and because it's subjective, then the answer is you're right. Whether if you like the 636 the most, you're right. Gixxer 6, you're right. 750, correct. R9, good choice. See what I'm saying? So the R9 is so good at being an alternative to the super sports, and for riders that maybe don't fit those bikes, that it deserves a solid place in the stable for sure. Let's see. Matt's saying everything you said in the last 5 minutes is so familiar. Which part? Armac saying weird thing, Bruce. Once you're on the Gixxer, it's not as extreme as it looks, and it's not. They're not as bad as they look. That is for sure in terms of ergos. Andrew's asking on the R9, is the unlock of 11,000 RPM redline noticeable? It is, but in a weird way. So here's the thing. Right. Okay. Is it noticeable? Yes. Do you need it? Yeah, you do, because you need the extra RPM as over rev. Don't think of it as where you're making power. You're not. The extra, what is it? 500 RPM or so. What it gives you is a little bit more over rev in third gear or in fourth gear. If you're diving into a corner, or if you've got to hang on to a gear before you start to drop the bike in, that's when you need the extra RPM, but it's not making extra power out there. With the pipe and the tune, it's still making peak power around 10,000 RPM. But that's not to say that that's the best place to shift this bike, because as the power comes up, it'll come up and it's nice and linear. Everything's looking good. And then it plateaus, and then it'll kind of drop is how it feels. Don't worry about what it looks like on a dyno. I'm just kind of going through what it feels like when you're riding it. So I fan the gears. I've got the shift light set right at 10 grand. And right as the light starts to let me know I'm coming up on a shift point, I go ahead and grab the gear. And that's where the bike seems to like it the most. As long as you keep that bike in the fat part of the torque curve, you're good. You just have to be kind of careful with it. Because see, here's the thing. And somebody had asked about the DNA air filter. I did not do the DNA stage 2. And you might go, well, why didn't you do the DNA stage 2? You get more power. Like, it's better, right? the two-wheel dyno work says that it's better and you have to have extra power, torque, and all this. That's adorable. But that's on track. And if you're on track and you've got slicks and you're on a prepared surface, yeah, you want the extra power. But on the street, on a bike that's already making a hell of a lot of mid throttle and 3/4 throttle torque, I think I mentioned it earlier. This bike hazes the tire in third gear on corner exit. More power is not what I need. In fact, that's why I'm now going into fourth to try to mitigate that actual twist at the rear axle, because it is that good. It will wheelie in third gear on corner exit. So no, you don't need the extra power of that lid. You just want the thing to have as much over rev as you possibly can. DM saying, I really like the new growl of the triple. I love it. See, that's one of the things. We're talking about subjective things, right? You know, this is another thing it shares with the R1. You know, on the R1, you roll into the throttle and it's got that raw thing that it does. That R9 does that now too. There's so much cool stuff that the R9 does before it does anything. Like in terms of making a lot of power, it's just how it lays down torque, how it sounds, and with a 2 1/4 inch mid pipe on the M4 exhaust, it's deep, it's throaty. I mean, the thing sounds amazing. So you get a completely different soundtrack, something that's unique and very cool to the segment. You get a phenomenal suspension. The KYB forks, 43 millimeters, sound familiar? Adjustable preload for the rear. Are you kidding me? And a suspension that I have not touched, not at all. There's a lot going on with this bike. Now, I probably should dial in maybe a little bit of compression dampening. Nah, screw it. I'm leaving it alone because it's so good the way it sits. It gets down the road so well. There's no vibration. In fact, another thing that the R9 shares with the R1 is that it gives much less rider fatigue just going down the highway. One of the issues with four-cylinder bikes is that at some point they become buzzy, secondary harmonics and all this other. I don't want to nerd you out. I'm just saying that four cylinders get buzzy at some point. It's because of the firing order. If you've got a triple, you don't have that problem. Or if you have a cross plane 4, again, you don't have that problem. And the reason why the cross plane 4 doesn't have the same issue is because you have a 180, 90, 270 firing order. And so, I mean, it's kind of all over the board. Actually, it's 90, I think, going from the back, 90, 180. Screw it. You get the idea. It's out of there, right? So you don't have to worry about that. And so less rider fatigue, just like the R1. You get the cool intake growl, just like the R1. Lots of tip in torque. It all the time, it seems like. What's not to love about this thing? Pilo's saying, yeah, Bruce, it becomes the new normal pretty quick. Oh, talking about the Super Sport. Yep. Matt's saying, so the dude who traded in your R9 is 100% punching the air right now. Oh, yeah. I bet it would. I bet he would, rather. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, dude, this bike is really, I don't know what the guy was bitching about. I have no idea. Didn't ask. Don't care. I got it now, and I'm enjoying the heck out of it. Pyro's saying, oh, he's got an R9 and an MT-07. Dude, love me some MT-07, man. Check out that ride review tomorrow morning. Bruce said, I'm scared that I'm actually going to fit on a 602 wheel, then have to convince the old lady that it's a good idea for me to buy one. Well, just buy it and convince her how good it is then. Better to ask for forgiveness. Armax saying, a neighbor down the street is selling a 2023 CF Moto CFX 700 Sport. It's a cafe racer, and the price is outright, and the old lady likes. Oh, I need to check that out. What is it called? CXL? What is it called? Let me look this thing up real quick. CLX 700. Let us consult the Google. Bear with me, guys. Hey, that's a good looking bike. It's dragging up this 2022 here. Really? Yeah, that's a real. Hold on, let me pull this thing up. Let me get a nice little. Let me get a better shot of this for you guys. Oh, this is good enough. Hang on. Yeah, that is a good looking bike. Huh. That out. You know what? You know what this bike looks like? Hold up. Hold up. Bear with me, fellas. You know, that bike looks a lot like you know what else it looks like? It looks a lot like the XSR 700. Yeah, it's a sweet bike. Let's see. Oh, Bruce saying, yeah, the CXL looks pretty decent. I think it looks great. Ryan saying, you'll love the Gixxer, but the money you'll save in price and insurance with the CF Moto, you wouldn't have to explain anything. Ain't that the truth? Speaking of which, so I know I've said this before, but the insurance cost on my R9 is to the dollar half of what the insurance is on the 750. Paul was saying the filter would complement its sound nicely since triple do sound a bit like it whistles. That's actually a gear noise that you're hearing also. At least that's how it sounds on YouTube. It's got a bit of a gear noise to it, kind of like an old school. It almost sounds like gear driven cams, like on my RC51. Bruce saying, I hope they put cruise control in the 675. That'd be kind of cool if they did. By the way, the R9 has cruise control. I've used it once just to see if I could figure it out, and I was really weirded out by it, so I immediately turned it off. Oh, Ryan said, I know if enough people talking about tell CF Moto they want cruise control, CF Moto will put cruise control on it. That's one good thing about CF Moto is they really do listen to their owners and to their buyers. That said, I can't wait to get to Mid Ohio for Moto America and talk with Strut guys about the R9. Oh yeah. I don't know if you guys saw this. Orange Crush was letting me know the new rules for the R9 state that it has to use the factory swing arm, which is to say that if Yamaha wanted to, they could just start making the R9 with the longer swing arm. I don't know that they will, but just saying. Oh, Matt's saying, oh, the parts I said when you were being a hater. Yeah. Dude, see, here's the funny thing about the R9. You have to experience the R9 for it to shut you up. You can't just take anybody's word for it because it doesn't play on paper. And it doesn't play if you're just sitting on the thing either. It doesn't work like that with the R9. And yeah, and I'm guilty. I'm just like anybody else. I mean, I'm looking at the specs, seeing what this thing's all about. I did the same thing with the MT-07, by the way. You got to ride them. Proof's in the pudding, and the pudding's on the bike. And I'm telling you, being on the bike is such a different experience than riding a super sport. But yet it does everything that a super sport does in a way, the handling, the acceleration, just the sound of it though, and the growl of the intake and the look of it and all of this. There's so much going on here. So in essence, I guess the best way to put this is, look, it is going to be going up against the GSXR 600. It will be going up against the GSXR 750. How is it going to do? I don't know. The R9 doesn't have the top end that a Gixxer whatever is going to have, but it feels stronger than the 636. Weird. It doesn't scream like the R6 that it's supposed to, the place that it's supposed to take. But it gets the job done with a little over half of the RPM range of the R6, which about 2,000 of that's really overrev, but you get the idea. There's so much good about the R9, but you'd never know it unless you actually ride the thing. That's the crazy part about that bike. And I've got to say that although it's not the bike that I'm the most surprised by this year as stock, it is the bike that I'm most surprised by once you put everything on that bike. Then it's wow. Okay, now I get it. Now I see what Yamaha was going for, but dadgum, you could have at least given us something to work with. But here we are, and the bike seems to be doing very well. Matt saying, in all seriousness, I am stoked that you're really enjoying Safira. Now that she is has the flash and exhaust, I knew she wouldn't disappoint. No, she's not. And here's the funny thing. Not only is it not disappointing, but it's doing something else too. And it's seriously scratching an itch in that it really is the Daytona that we never got from Triumph, which is to say a big bore Daytona, not one like Chef's asking about the, or Ply was saying rather about the R9 versus 675. Chef's saying, oh, here we go. I like it. R9 versus 675 would be a good run. I can tell you that. But it would go basically the same against the R9 as we're going to find out how it does against the 600. The R9 and the 675, man, again, I mean, the 675 is still a true super sport-ish, at least for how the rules evolved for its day. But that being said, man, the 675 is a hell of a bike. And for a lot of guys, it does represent the absolute best of what the super sport class had to offer from back then. They really are that good of a bike. So saying no more R9 nonsense. I don't know. There's gonna be a lot more of that coming, I promise. But no, I don't, the 675, the funny thing is that by rights, you'd have thought that I'd have had at least 2 or 3 675s by now. That's one of the few bikes that, for whatever reason, I haven't ever owned one, and I really kind of feel like I should have. Matt's saying lots of people were asking why I was stopping at exhaust and flash and not going with more mods, and that is the exact reason I gave. I'm not a track racer guy. It's overkill for me. Well, here's the thing. It's okay. So you do flash tune, maybe a filter, right? You do the airbox mod, you do the foam thing, you get all that stuff out of the way, and realistically you're putting down, oh, okay, let me go ahead and just make this point that I keep forgetting to make. And I'm going to be talking about this in an upcoming ride along video. Here's the thing. If depending on which dyno you want to believe, the R9, the way that it sits, is making 120 horsepower now to the rear tire. And we're to say 120 flat, right? Okay. The GSXR 750 bone stock makes, for lack of a better number, 120 horsepower to the rear tire. Does anybody complain about the amount of power that the GSXR 750 makes? No, nobody does. Nobody ever has, frankly. So, piped and tuned R9 makes the exact same horsepower at the rear tire as a stock GSXR 750. But it makes 70 plus pound-feet of torque to the rear tire, where the GSXR 750 makes, what, 55? So 15 foot-pounds of torque, let's even reduce the number and call it 10. Let's say we're talking about just the best GSXR 750 you've never heard of, and it makes 60, right? To the 70 plus of an R9. That is a major difference when we're talking torque, especially in terms of percentage of a difference. Because at 70 pound-feet of torque versus 60, that's an 18% difference in torque. And that's a huge number. So you see what I mean when I say that the R9 can do things that the 750 can't? And it does it effortlessly and smoothly. So I guess, and this is that part of the video where I say I'm trying to come up with a way to describe a point that I'm making without literally tying myself into a knot. This is one of those things. And it works out like this. Piped and tuned, Gixxer 750, about 130, 135 horsepower-ish, give or take. Just call it 130 just for the sake of argument. So it's making 10 more horsepower than the R9 at the rear tire. Okay, that's about an 8% difference. Okay, but again, that 60 foot-pounds of torque versus 70 plus, there's your 18% in torque. So you got 18% more torque with 10% less horsepower. Sounds to me like it's one of those good old-fashioned trade-off versus trade-off things, right? I don't really know how I was going to incorporate that little bit of data into a chat on a ride-along. So here you go. There's one of those tidbits that didn't quite make it to any of the ride-along videos, but it's something that I wanted to share with you because it's how you have to look at the R9. And you can go, oh, cool, we've got a bike here that does things differently. Let's see how that shapes up, you know, and that's kind of the fun way that I like to look at these bikes now. I don't really worry about all the rest of the details and specs. Sniper saying R9 is goated. It's getting so good, I'm telling you. And it's getting even better because, okay, look at the R9 like this. We talk about the tide raises all ships, right? Would we even be talking about Gixxer 600, CBR 600s, or maybe even the 636 in a positive way and not talking about recalls if it weren't for the R9? Just think about that for a minute. You know, what does GOAT mean? Greatest of all time. Well, it might not be the greatest of all time yet. Those shoes are pretty hard to fill, but it's already proven to be the bike that gets you talking about the rest of the field, the rest of the players, if you will, that you would have never brought up before and that haven't had a reason to be brought up in years. Matter of fact, I'm shocked, frankly, that manufacturers still make the super sport class bikes in the States. I mean, you can't get Gixxer 600s overseas. You can get a different version of the CBR 600. The 636 is out there, but in the class, I mean, that's one of the best selling, if not the best selling of the group because they make so many of them. But I guess the point is this. There's a reason why super sport racing is so crazy popular. By the way, shout out to ZX Moto for another victory. But the thing is that you've got folks that are looking at that class now with excitement. The anticipation is strong. You've got eyes now looking at that class. And the only reason they're doing it is because of the R9. The R9 got here first. Think about that for a minute. So the R9 introduces us to the concept of the super middleweight, for lack of a better way of putting it. KTM and Ducati follow suit, at least in market. The Gixxer 750 gets some of its nannies removed to be homologated into the class, although it's still heavily neutered. But you've got bikes in the class now, again, that you can see that you probably would have forgotten about already. That's the good thing about the R9. I'm saying R1 is already goated. R1 is awesome. Love me some R1. All the bikes. RMAX saying, spike the light. Bruce saying she's watching this with me. Who did she say that to? That's awesome. Chef saying, hold. She said, it's cold sleeping in the garage with my motorcycles. Heated grips. You know what never kicked me out of bed? My motorcycle. Motorcycles love you. Matt, she's over here rolling. I love it. I'm saying next to R1, R9 is nothing. Nothing what? Oh, DM. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Very much. Thank you. Sounds like you're burning gas. You should do more of that. My man, coming in clutch. So get a load of this. I burned through an entire tank of gas today on the R9, looking for excuses to ride that bike. Oh, speaking of which, anyway, DM, thank you very much. A fun thing about gas, in this case, gas tanks. So you guys know I do a lot of my own work. And I did the install of the exhaust, obviously the taking out of the computer. I didn't tune the bike, but DM, you're going to love this. So I get the bike back together, and it's kind of a late night. You already see where this is going, right? And I had everything hooked up. I thought, get the tank back on the bike, get the side of the bike put back on, basically getting it ready for the M4 exhaust to show up the next day. Everything's kind of clicking along. We're good to go. Get the exhaust on the bike. Keep in mind, I didn't put all the fairings back on or anything else. Click the thing on, go to start it. The starter's spinning. Bike doesn't want to fire off. Now, what I had done is I had taken my code reader and I had cleared the codes on the R9. And the reason why I cleared the codes on the R9 is because I just wanted to be able to go in, make sure everything was still set up the way that I had it, set the clock, do everything. And I just wanted to have the codes off. And I thought, damn, what did I do? Did I piss the thing off by, resetting the codes or something? And then I looked down at the dash, and there's a tattletale that should tell you what I had done. The gas gauge shows, I had it on range instead of the gas gauge, and the range is dashes. And I knew the tank had gas in it a little bit. And I flip it over to the gas gauge, and if you do that, the gauge just starts flashing. And I went, no, that's right. Your boy forgot to hook up the fuel pump, which is also the gas gauge. So off come the side of the bike, up comes the tank. Had to reach in there, and there it is, just sitting there, plucked the little pigtail, stick the thing back up in there, and set the tank back down, and everything's good to go. The funny thing, though, is I was using that tank stay for the GSX-Rs. I was using that to hold the tank up on the R9. But here's the thing. The R9 does not have a hinged tank, so it was sitting back on the bracket, and I had zip ties running through the back of that bracket holding the tank in place so that if the tank shifted, it wouldn't fall off the bike and be one of those days. So anyway, there's some more behind the scenes, but thank you very much for the gas money. We're going to need it because I'm going to be burning through a lot. And I just got back with mine, and I mean, the light is flashing. So yes, for sure. We're saying next to R1, nothing middleweights or anything. So here's the thing. You guys know I ride all bikes, right? I ride a little bit of everything. And yeah, R1's great. Gixxer 1000's great. It's whatever bike fits whatever need that you're going for. And of the leader bikes, love me some GSX-R 1000. In fact, on the whiteboard, I still have the suspension set up for an A model 1000 Suzuki. The R1 for me, though, if I were to get another leader bike, would be the R1. But I've got an R9 now. And the R9, with the way that it makes torque, is a lot of fun to ride. And I'm really more into the having of fun than I am into doing leader bike stuff. Because the only thing about leader bikes for me, and it's the weird way that I'm wired, but if I have the capability to do leader bike stuff because I have a leader bike, then I find that it is inefficient use of funds, if you will, to have one of those bikes and not be doing leader bike stuff. And I was talking, Orange Crush and I were talking about this, and it's kind of funny. Red alert, if I was on that bike, it would always see the top of fifth gear. And top of fifth gear is 172 miles an hour. And it was rare for me not to buzz that bike up there. And I got to a point with it where I was like, damn, that just wasn't exciting. You know what I mean? So I had to kind of reshape how I saw things. And I just kind of came to the conclusion that, man, I want to just have fun with the bike, hit some corners, hit some twisties. And I don't want to necessarily be tempted to do leader bike stuff unless I get an R1, and then I'll get back into doing that. But DM, thank you so much. Told you that's my headcanon for her official name. Oh yeah, Sapphira. Armac saying, you the man, DM? Yes, DM is the man. Thank you so much again, my friend. I truly do appreciate that a ton. Armac saying, how long until Professor notices I say a full minute? I say 6 minutes. Say what? Oh, I'd say until I maybe start the timer 5 minutes. Until I say what? News X10 when? Oh, News X10R? Never. Never. And I'll tell you why. Who won the bet? I want it. Sweet. Oh, anyway. Oh, ZX10R. Why not? That is one of the most uncomfortable bikes I've ever sat on. And the newest one is anyway. I mean, it just did not, the seat, the reach to the bars, all of that, it just did not fit me very well. Not to mention the issues that they're having with that bike already right now. Have y'all heard about that? Having a lot of problems with those bikes sinking valves right now, which is to say the valves are getting sucked up into the cylinder head. But I was saying, I won. I don't know what. Okay, fill me in. What did I say? Is it me seeing DM or what? Let's see. Let me check back in with you guys. Scroll down a bit here. You're saying, is your Gixxer 750's warm idle as smooth as stock with the full exhaust on there? Mine, it'll lope a little bit, but all of them do. But it loped when it was stock. So yeah, I mean, it absolutely, it just sounds better. It isn't really anything different. And it's more Mafia tune on that one with Yoshimura R77 exhaust. I was asking if there's something off with Gixxers. I get a little lope. Oh yeah, it's totally normal. Dude, it's the Gixxer lope. They're known for it. You know, another bike that loped was my 636. You're just saying it's flash with exhaust, so I figured I'd ask since he's got the same bike. Yeah, it's totally normal. I was saying doing leader bike stuff is some felony shit. Only when they get you. Oh, Mike saying, I'm too scared to get the death wobble from going too fast. Going fast doesn't give you a wobble. What it is it's a function of the bike just not being lined up front to rear. It's the caster effect on the front tire. And what happens is if you come down a little bit crooked, the front tire tries to self-correct. And that just happens because the front of the bike gets light. So the trick to that is just don't, like, if you ever watch, you see my bikes will get head shake all the time. It's just because I'm kind of floating the front tire. Instead of the bike being perfectly flat, I'm kind of carrying the front tire just a little bit. And when you do that, the bike will try to caster a little bit. And so you get a little bit of a wobble out of it. It's totally normal. What you don't want to have is you don't want to be on the side of the tire and get a little bit of a wobble out of it. Oh, Matt, it's how long until you notice the super chat? You know what's funny is that it on my side, it pops up like right over here, but it doesn't always pop up. It doesn't always like ding, it doesn't always light up. And so sometimes you guys might see it if it's further down on the chat where I can't see it. Y'all see it before I do. Or am I saying Matt had the answer? So saying I see things like this, I'll hug R1s long before R9s. Oh, I mean, well, okay, great. For a lot of us that are more track oriented, that kind of stuff is like, yeah, that's where the Busa does its best work. So it better do good there, right? Like if it doesn't, what's the point of it? DM saying, B, I saw you got a little bit of head shake on the R9 today. That ride looked fun. It's a lot of fun. I was saying, yeah, it was pulling in that video. So here's the funny thing. It's kind of funny because on that hit, so what they're talking about is the video. It's now that one I saw, Matt, because I'm at the very bottom. Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. So that one was the instant 1.5 minutes. No, that one I saw because it was right on the bottom. But yeah, the funny thing is, so on the R9 is kind of, and the R1 does the same thing. Rolling into the throttle, I'm in first gear, roll into the throttle, catch an early shift into second, and then pin it in second. When I do that, the R9 kind of comes up a little bit, and it's carrying the front tire, and you can't see it really. You can't really tell, but it's up maybe this high. Like just the handlebar's light, and then I shift into third. And at some point, I just will roll out of the throttle a little bit, or just as the bike will sit back down naturally, there's a slight variance in the road. And so you'll get a little bit of a head shake as it barely sits back down. You don't even feel it usually sit back down. And you'll get the little bit of a doodly-doodly-doo. And then what I'm doing is I'm just real light with it, letting it self-adjust. And then I'll grab, blip because I like blipping the downshift. No matter what, even though the R9 is really good, but I'll blip the downshift, start to grab a little bit of brake. And by that time, everything's already adjusted itself out and it's all happy. But it will get lively on the side of the tire, though. That is for sure. Armac saying, love my Busa, but no, my ass isn't going to the strip on it. I get it. But thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Yeah, you know what's funny is one of my favorite bikes, and it's just because it's a money thing. But the Busa for me is one of my all-time favorite bikes to ride. And the funny thing about it is, and there's been an opportunity here and there come up for a third gen. And I love the third gens because no, they don't make quite the horsepower. I mean, you can get plenty of power out of them, don't get me wrong, but leaving it stock wheelbase with like a full acro, full M4, whatever it would be. But they're really good at being Busa, right? I mean, they're way faster than you would expect them to be. But they're also way smoother, way more comfortable, way more capable, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, they're a lot of fun. But as far as dragging one to the drag strip or something like that, it would be, for me, it would be a novel experience. But that's just, that is a street bike now for me. I wouldn't, well, it'd make a good drag bike. They do make excellent drag platforms. But ultimately, love the bike. I just wouldn't really get a chance to do anything with it. Not the stuff I like to do anyway. DM saying R9 had a good amount of grunt through the corners today too. It just hits different now. It really does. It hits different now. And the thing about it is now that I've burned a full tank of gas in that thing. And I mean a full tank of gas. In fact, I went from having the range read over 120 in terms of miles to low. So the entire gambit. So there might be half a gallon of gas in that tank. One of the things that I found about that bike, especially now, pipe tune, all of that, is, and again, this is one of those parts of the topic where I'm kind of working through an upcoming video as I'm talking to you guys, part of the thought process with the R9, and that is to get super sport out of your head and think of the R9 as either Miss R1, like Mrs. R1, right? Or think of it, in other words, that is to say that no, it's not as strong as an R1, but there's areas where the R9 is pretty stout and surprisingly stout. But get it out of your head that it's a super sport. Because super sport to me would be if Yamaha made the R6 again, and then you got Mama Bear, Papa Bear, Baby Bear, right? And each one of those bikes has something that it does very, very well, and it's the top of its class in whatever it does. But to me, the R9, I can't think of it as a super sport because it's bigger. It does the torque thing. It does the ergos thing. It does the technology thing. It has all of that going for it. But because it's class limited, it's just not going to have the horsepower. And I'm okay with that. But yeah, it's got a lot of grunt, and that is for sure. Let's see. Oh, Bruce saying a buddy of mine has S2000 GTR and an R6. His company rents a drag strip every year for workers, friends, and family. He told me to come out and run my Vaquero. Slow-mo drag race. I like it. Oh, Chef saying my second gen is uncomparable. Awesome. I mean, what do you do with it? I mean, do you do half mile events, roll races stuff? I mean, look, second gen is going to make the most power out of the whole group. But again, if you're not getting out there and really getting after it with that bike, it's still a great street bike. And for a lot of guys now, I mean, a lot of folks have moved away past some of the more like the half mile and mile events. They say that's the reason why I wanted to get one, was to build either a half mile or a mile bike and just get out there and goof off, run your 190, grab your 200 number on a mile event and just call it good. So, and that was the whole point of me thinking about building one. And it was just to have a bike that would consistently run 200 miles an hour, and that would be it. And the thing is that those kind of numbers on a bike like that, it sounds like you're hauling ass, but you don't notice it on the Hayabusa. The larger platforms deal with speed so much better than the leader bikes do, especially when you're not, like I wasn't with Red Alert. It wasn't strapped. It was stock wheelbase. And you would see numbers of like 186, 180. Well, it would stop reading at 186, but 172 at the top of fifth, click a gear, hold on to that for like 2 or 3 seconds. You're going to eclipse deeper into 180 and then you get out of it. You do that on a Busa and it's just, you feel like you're definitely doing something, but it is in a much more relaxed, much less frantic way on a Busa. And that's why I was going to look into that to be more of a half mile or a mile bike. But then I looked at the cost of it and was like, I ain't messing with that. DM saying, when I have my Gen 1 Busa, I can travel comfortably for hours, for sure. I mean, and that's part of it. Is that, I mean, they use them, cops use them. Remember back in the day, you would see the cops with the cop Busas. But it's good enough for those guys. It'll definitely be good enough for as far as stability goes. Those guys are big into that. But yeah, no, I'm loving the R9. And I've got to say that I have get out of this. I didn't realize I was didn't loving the R9 though. And on the side of the tire, that bike is really good. And that's part of what I was so surprised about with that bike is that it's awesome on the side of the tire. Power out of corners is really good. But one thing the R9 will do, I got to be kind of careful with that bike in a way because it will absolutely chew up a set of tires. Keep in mind, I don't have any of the rider aids on. Well, that's not exactly true. I've got the rider aids that are off on the R9 are, let's see, I've got wheelie control is off, slide control is off. Already figured out that definitely is off. And brake controller is off. And those are the things that, I mean, I don't have a need for any of that. Now, traction control stays on no matter what, but I've yet to have traction control step in and do anything weird. But then again, I'm riding it with a lot of those rider aids turned off. So does it matter? I don't know. But I will tell you this, I'm having a ball with it in a way that I didn't see myself having a ball with it. And I was having an okay amount of fun with it when it was stock, but it was really that good as it was stock. And I got to thinking, man, if this bike just had a little bit more, it'd be awesome. But it got a little bit more and it's better than awesome. And that's why I like it. Because it is so good on the side of the tire, high bank angles, super stable, rolling into the throttle, lots of torque. What's not to love, right? DM saying, it seems with the R9, you get most of the leader bike benefits without the razor's edge. It sounds fun. And that's the thing. It really is leader bike light. I mean, it's 90% of the displacement with, I don't know, 60% of the power. What's not to love? And the thing is that you can have fun with it. But there's a seriousness to the R9. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to paint this thing out as, being the Mr. Rogers of the leader bike or the sub leader bike, the super middleweight class. But the thing is that you really can have your cake and eat it in a way with the R9 because you do get the torque of a leader bike, all but at least, right? But you get all the grunt, but you're not burdened with having to deal with the power that a leader bike makes. And that's a significant thing for guys, especially when you're just out doing stuff on the street. On track, it depends on the track, doesn't it? Like a big open track, you're going to want something with long legs. And the R9 doesn't have that. Got news for you. Neither does the 636. And those two bikes are very comparable, by the way, with how they actually perform one versus the next. The R9's got it in grunt. Don't get me wrong. But again, just, if you watch some of my old 636 videos and then you watch the R9, how the bikes go through the gears, the mile an hour that they get to before carousel, for example, the speed that I'm running through carousels, very similar. A lot of the stuff about the R9 and the 636 are so close, as a matter of fact, that you're like, dang, that's kind of weird. It's just that the R9 has better on street manners and it has better front end feel. So there's that. But I can tell you that for somebody that wants a true sport bike, just a sporty bike, the R9 is real difficult to beat because not only are you not dealing with the horsepower, you're not burdened with the horsepower of a leader bike. Some folks would say that the R9 should make more because of displacement. Not really. But you're also not burdened with the RPM requirements of a super sport, right? So for a lot of things that make a bike fun, enjoyable, a lot of just the stuff that motorcyclists are looking for, all of that is found in the R9. Very little of it is found in the Super Sport. And again, because the R9 is the answer to the question of, can we have a little bit bigger bike, please? Can we have some more torque, please? Can we have a lower revving bike so that we don't have to rev this thing to the moon? Not that that should matter, but here we are. Can we have some more technology, please? Can we have a bike that's got built-in, baked into the cake reliability, which is what the CP3 gives you? This is what everybody wanted. So again, I just go back to, if this is what everybody wanted, this is what you got. The one thing that you didn't ask for was underbelly exhaust, which is terrible on the R9, and a overly neutered first and second gear. Okay, well, you're going to be piping and tuning your bike anyway, so shut up. You get what you're going to get. And, oh, damn, here's the parting trick. Super cheap to insure. There's party bag number one, take home bag number two. It's easy to work on. The bike really is easy to work on. And oh, by the way, it's easy to modify, because I didn't even have to I didn't touch the radiator to get the exhaust out of that bike. Didn't have to. I just moved the little bracket. Boop, that's it. Didn't even touch the radiator. And I moved the bracket because it was just in the way of the exhaust coming out. That's it. Nothing else to report here. Everything else went together perfectly. Everything was fine. So you got a bike that does all this stuff, gives you some technology to boot, and it's easy to work on, and it's cheap to insure, and it's rock solid reliable. Where's the downside? This thing does motorcycle better than most motorcycles do, but yet there's still a bunch of hate, myself included. I'll keep coming back to this. But again, with the R9, you've got to ride it, because even just throwing a leg over it, if you can find one on a dealership, is not going to do this justice. Let's see. Bear with me. Bear with me. Oh, Chef's saying, going to be going cross country in a month. Wish me luck. Oh, the new Dunlops. Yeah, the Dunlops are good. Matt saying, Jeremy Clarkson said, some cars just have soul. I think the same applies to bikes. Bikes do have soul. Bikes definitely do have soul. In a weird way, too. Tiger saying, I passed on the R9, took delivery of my Gixxer 600, and I'm in love. Beautiful. Love my 600. I don't know, man, that Gixxer 600 is such a good bike. Yeah, got the M5 2025. Mm-hmm. Awesome bike, man. Tell you what, last weekend I was on the 600 out on our favorite BNC roads, and damn, this little 600 is a heathen. Yeesh. I'll put it to you like this: I like my 600 better than I did the final setup on the Blue 750. That's why the Blue 750 is gone. DM's asking, how's the tire management on the R9? Because leader bikes eat tires, and it's not quite a leader bike. Got a little picture I'll show you. Hold up, DM. I don't know if this will come over. Tire management. I don't know if this is gonna, if you can actually see. Tires look kind of like that right now. So, you chews them up pretty good, bro. Did you see that, or do I need to show that again? I want to make sure you get a chance to see it. Here you go. Here's me chewing the S22 off of the S22. So, and as you can see, I'm using the entire tire on this bike. It may it may end up getting a set of 190 55s for the back. DM say, well, you're using all the tire. I saw it. Yeah. Um, it, like I say, it may end up getting a 190 rear tire, just like the 750 has, because you're not going to use the whole tire, which is good. But yeah, I'm like I say, I'm not even, I'm off the bike too. I'm off the bike. I'm not dragging knee though, because I'm running tucked. So my knee, I keep the knee tucked. But yeah, no, I'm cooking a lot of tire with that thing. Let's see. But no, it's so. Oh, to answer your question a little bit better, third gear hard corner exits, not that good of an idea on this bike, because it'll either haze the tire or it'll pull the front tire off the ground, or both. It'll go, yeah, and kind of come up like that. To the point where I thought it was the clutch. I thought it was hazing the clutch. And I was going, what the hell's a brand new bike? How can I be cooking a clutch? And it was not the clutch. So there's that. But all you do for me, it's just taking a gear higher, and there's so much torque you cannot tell the difference on exit. It just doesn't get as rowdy, and the tail doesn't want to step out as much. And here's the thing. I don't mind the tail stepping out a little bit. That's fun. And in fact, I got on the R9, when I do the play around thing in third gear, I'm kind of anticipating it. And I'm like, yeah. So, but here's the problem. I run out of RPM. So it's kind of a weird thing where like it'll do it, and then you immediately have to catch an upshift, because you're literally coming up on that 11,000 RPM number. And that's the only, if there's a downside, I put it like this. It's like having an R1 that you have to shift at 11,000 RPM or 10,000 RPM. But it's just the R9 is so efficient at making torque way low in the RPM range that it just kind of carries that along with it. Pilo's got his M5 600 also. Nice. DM saying good stuff when you burn up those tires. Maybe give the Bridgestones a look for sure. I'm a big fan of Bridgestones. I like the Power 6s too. Got to admit, good tire, but I'll probably stick with Bridgestones on the Yamaha. Oh, Tiger got the blue and white, the Z code. Nice. Bruce saying, looking forward to a demo on the R9. Not that I'm not scared of crotch rockets anymore. Oh, they're easy. They're easy to ride. Paula's saying, would you mix match tires like Battle Axe BT16's front, maybe an S23 or Road 6 rear? I have no problem mixing brands. So I used to run, Red Alert ran an RS11 front with an S22 or an S23 rear. I usually won't mix different brands. Like I wouldn't run a Road 6. I wouldn't run a Road 6 either way, but I wouldn't run like a Road 6 or a Power 6 rear with a Bridgestone front. I mean, I'm not saying you can do it, but I would prefer not to, because I want to match the profiles of the tires. Oh, Paulo said he got the white one. Nice. Oh, there he is, using all the tire. Yeah. Using a little bit of that tire. Tiger saying that bike back there looks like it's labeled R9. No, that's the bin for extra R9 parts. But thanks. It's good look. I like that. I'm saying I like the 190 55s. I do too. And a lot of folks would say, well, why would you want to do that? It's on a 5.5-inch rim. Just run the 180. You don't know. If you haven't run a 180/60 or a 190/55, then there is a difference with how the bike acts, and it's a big difference in some cases. And I prefer the 190/55 on the GSXR 750 but I'm not going to run it on the 600. The R9 kind of needs it. Not for tip in or anything like that. It does that just fine. Oh, although on a hard transition, oh, I forgot to mention this too. So when I pull, well, let me finish that point. I want the bigger tire for the R9 just to give it a little bit longer legs in fourth gear. That's it. I need a little bit more mile an hour in fourth. I need a little bit more mile an hour in fifth, and then we'll be in good shape. I need like 3 or 4 more mile an hour, and that slightly larger tire will give that to you without having to re-gear the bike. But that being said, this is how much grunt DM the R9 has. When I'm pulling in to the hotel, the marina, I pull in from y'all's point of view. I pull in, make the right hand turn, then I immediately yank the bike over to the left and just carry the bike over, right? Well, the R9, I'm in second gear too. I'll drop the bike in, and as I'm coming over, I'm having to yank the R9 over because it's a short distance. I'm going kind of fast, and it's a Yamaha, and you've got to be a little bit more aggressive with it to move it over. And as I move that bike over, and as I'm rolling into the throttle, the front end of the bike will come up and sit down. So you do a little bit of a wheelie as you drag the thing over on the rear tire and set it down, and then you pin the throttle. As you're doing that, and the rear will step out and it'll bring the front tire and set it down. It does that better than the Gixxer 1000 did. I used to try to play with the 1000 and do that kind of thing. And it's real subtle. It's not like it's standing up, doing anything like that. It's a real subtle thing, just a little bit of a lift as you bring it over. And then as you roll into the throttle, on the side of the tire, you'll feel the front of the bike come up and then set down a little bit. This bike does that better than the 1000 did. I mean, it really is that good at just being fun to ride. Let's see. Oh, Chef's saying Bridgestones. He doesn't like the Bridgestones in the rain. I haven't ridden mine. I wouldn't ride mine in the rain either. I guess it depends on the tire. But I was saying R9 needs a 13,000 RPM redline. The problem is that the pistons are just too big. It would be great if it did, but it's just, unfortunately, you can't drag that kind of RPM out of that type of an engine. Heathen is the perfect word. It's a lot of fun, man. Love them. Love me some 600. Hey, listen, good luck. If I'm in a certain mood on the 600 in a certain environment, it's going to be tough. It's going to take somebody like the guys that I ride with to get around me. Cause in fact, the last lap that I made this past weekend was awesome. Probably the quickest run I've ever run on that patch of roads. And it was on the 600. DM's asking if I need a little bit more mile an hour, would I consider getting billet velocity stacks? Not for the R9. And what happens with the R9 and velocity stacks is you literally run out of RPM before the velocity stacks start to work. To make the velocity stacks work in that engine, I want to say, you think about this for a minute, your RPM, your minimum RPM to get them to work, I want to say, if memory serves me correctly, is like 12,000 RPM. And to get there, you've got to have cams. You've got to have at least the stage 2. Well, no, I think the stage 2 would get you there. Cams for sure, completely revised airbox. I mean, the whole front of that thing's gonna have to be cut off. There's a lot that you have to do to get the bike to where it would actually spin out there. And that's one of the things that is kind of a bummer with that bike, is that you really can't employ some of the things you could do on, like, the 636. With that bike, needed, like, absolutely had to have velocity stacks, and it helped that bike out quite a bit, at least as far as being able to carry power and have good over rev. You just can't do that with the R9, unfortunately. Not without a lot of things that bike's never really going to see. Oh, DMC, that's one of my favorite moves on my R1. See, and it's playful. That's the thing. So for me, the only thing I can do from here, there's two things I could do. One would be ported cylinder head, but that's not going to help me really gain any RPM. I would have to put a set of cams in it to go along with it. That's either the Giacomoto cams that you've heard about on Tubal Dyno Works, or it's the Crowler cams that are the regrinds that you may have heard of. V Cycle Nut is a big fan of those, and I think a lot of folks have kind of leaned into those a little bit. And it works out like this. Cams are kind of a funny play on that bike because you don't really pick up any torque. You only pick up horsepower, but you don't pick up any RPM window. So basically, instead of the bike making peak power at 10,000 RPM, it might make peak power at 10.5. It gets a little bit better as far as over rev goes, but you're still kind of stuck around 11, maybe 11,500 as far as total over rev is concerned. But the Crowler cams lose to the stock cams until about realistically 9,000 RPM. They pick up a little bit before that, but 9,000 RPM is where they start to really shine. And so if you're keeping the bike above 9,000 RPM, then it would make sense to go with the cams. But it's going to hurt you as far as just riding the thing around on the street. So, I mean, it hurts you, but it doesn't hurt you. And it's not a cheap thing. It's a couple of $1,000s at least to get the Crowler cams, which are regrinds. And then it's, okay, I'm not going to want to do that work. I just simply don't have the time to do that. And it's just it's a bucket and shim thing. I mean, if you can adjust valves by shim, you can conceivably adjust and put the cams in. There's not that big of a difference there. So anyway, so you get another 10 horsepower, but you'll go from 120, which is where I'm at now, to 130, give or take. But you don't get the over rev. And the problem is, since you don't get really a lot of over rev and it doesn't allow it to breathe out to like 11.5, then if you want to do that, you would have to go ported heads, Giacomoto cams, smaller head gasket so that you bump up your compression. That's really where everything comes into play. But you've got to do all of that to get what is in essence 10 or 12 horsepower out of the bike. And it's like, probably not what I want to do with this bike. But yeah, if I ever got an R1, I'm going to need to hit you up for some pointers on that bike, man. Paolo's saying longer gearing probably makes the most sense. Oh, hey, DM, does the R1, I can't remember what yours is. Do the new R1s have the variable velocity stacks? I can't remember. I always get that mixed up. I keep thinking that they do, but I can't remember if they do or not. But yeah, so in general, guys, oh, Matt's saying, so who else is pumped for the TT? Coming up soon. Yes, it is. Isle of Man. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that myself. Jim saying his is a bit older. Yeah, man, I got to tell you, I would love to find any of the earlier cross-plane bikes. Just so that it does R1 stuff without the complexity of the rest of the stuff. Everybody gets hung up on power numbers and all this other stuff. R1, I'm just not here for that. I want the sound. I want the stuff that makes R1 so good. And let the technophiles have the rest of whatever else would come with it. But yeah, I don't really, I should keep up. I should know that. In fact, I'm almost positive they have those adjustable velocity stacks. Because if you look at a power curve, you can see as those stacks are dropping, or I guess, yeah, as they're rising, actually, as those velocity stacks rise, you can see the sine curve move up, plateau up, plateau up. Oh, that 2019 that I ran good, but I just realized, guys, I was saying one of my gym buds has a super clean 2001 R1. That's a sweet bike. Love all of them. Oh, DMC, I have a buddy selling an R1 earlier model, but it's a race bike. It's in excellent condition though. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those one day I'm going to probably have to do it just because I won't be able to live with myself if I don't. But that being said, um, I don't know. We'll see. Every once in a while, I'll find myself somehow or another looking up R1s. Should have got that 2019. Sorry. Um, Pilo's saying, my guess is that trading in an R9 got delayed by only 2 weeks after excitement from exhaust and tune. It won't be long staying in the stable for too long. You know, it's funny. So the over under on that bike, I think, is sitting at 6 months. I think Jerry may have put that one out there. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what. Okay, here's the thing with the R9. I don't know what I would trade it in on. You know, and Orange Crush and I were talking about this. You know, we were even looking up different R1s, and the cost of them is pretty high, right? I mean, unless you get an older one, the cost is pretty high. But the insurance cost is high. Not too high, though, because I'd be looking at an older R1. But I guess the point of this is I really like the R9. I mean, I'm looking to put a steering dampener on it just because of the side of the tire shenanigans that I find myself in. But I'm finding myself weirdly happy with that bike. And it's a weird kind of happy that I haven't really had with a bike since the Gixxer middleweights. And I just have just one gas tank through the bike. Now, I know it's a little bit early on in the process, and I get that. But man, is that bike good? And it's good as a street bike when you're riding it and you're not really trying to do goofy stuff. You just want to ride a sport bike. That's where the R9 does its best work. And again, it has advantages over every other 600 or 750 super sport that's out there. And it offers up kind of an old school riding experience as well, in that it's got the bigger fairing, right? It's the seating position is very kind of old schooly in a way. The way that it makes power is kind of old school now that it's piped and tuned. It does a lot of cool stuff. So I just don't know what there is to dislike about that bike. And there's not another bike that's within arm's reach that I can find myself really getting excited about. Maybe if ZX Moto came to the States, maybe that bike would be the next it girl for the stable. But even then, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I don't know that that bike will ever be able to offer up the kind of durability that the R9 has. And see what I mean? This is where all of this starts to go kind of crazy and haywire. Because, like I say, there's just nothing else out there that I can find myself getting really like yes about. But the over under, by the way, is 6 months, if I understand it correctly. Oh, Matt said, I just can't wait to hear Lee Johnson talk about the talk during the broadcast. I love his accent. Sounds like a Lord of the Rings hobbits talking about bikes. That's cool. I like it. DM saying, I think you'll have that R9 for a bit. I think you're right. Here's the funny thing about the R9. It does the one thing that no other bike can do that I can think of. Maybe there's one out there that does it. I don't know. But it's the soundtrack, just like the R1. And this is something that Orange Crush and I were talking about today. The objectives don't matter in this class. It's all about subjective. And the R9, love the way it feels. Love the front end feel. It can get a little skittish, I will admit, but love the front end feel. Need to dial in a little bit compression dampening. Love a lot of things about the bike, but it's the unique soundtrack, the howl of the intake growl, the howl of that CP3 wailing through a 2.25-inch exhaust. It's so different in that respect. It's easy to ride. Again, much lower rider fatigue with that bike. You find yourself going, okay, what am I going to ride? I want to ride the R9, and it's the R9 that you pick. You don't pick the fastest bike in the group. You pick the bike that's right for what you want to do, and you pick the bike that just kind of talks to you. We talk about these things having a soul. I can tell you that the way that the R9 goes about business, I mean, it makes liking it really easy to do. And I came into this with a ton of hate, right? But I'm ended up, it's like, man, this is a really good bike. Let's put some more money into it and see if we can make it a little bit better. And then you do, and then it is. Holy cow. By the way, the part number for the GPR V5 steering stabilizer is 5-5011-3009. Just saying. So there's some things that I'm looking at when I'm on that bike that I'm not seeing. I don't know, pick the rest of the field, the rest of the class, the rest of other bikes that I've ridden. The R9 is just that good. And that's why, I mean, it's that good at doing stuff that you can't find on paper, that you can't find in on a spec sheet, a dyno sheet, whatever. It's just so good at doing that stuff that you don't want to get rid of it. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's so unique in the field too. Well, where's the other triple? Hey, Triumph. Don't think I forgot about you. Put a fairing on the 765. If you want to know, I'll tell you what. If you want to know what bike would get my attention the quickest, put a fairing on the 765 Street Triple. I'd still take the R9 over it because it's still different enough. And it doesn't matter. At some point, again, like I said, in this class, the power, it's an irrelevant statistic. But the R9 does have the torque in the class. And I'll tell you this, I mean, it holds its own with the rest of the field pretty well. So I'm all right with that. Let me check back in with you guys. So DM, yeah, I think you're right. And because it offers up so much cool, and guys, I don't know of a media that I can film or record the sound of that bike on. It sounds so good. Yeah, I think you're right about me having it for a while. Paul is saying, do you think that if it were discontinued soon, R9 would get as much love as the R6 or Daytona 675? No, not a chance. And the reason why I say that is that it's not going to get there because it hasn't done anything yet to deserve it. I love it, but I've got an affinity for it now because I've spent some time with it, and I've spent some time with one that's kind of optimized. The R6 has got years and years and years of winning races and being just a badass motorcycle. And the Daytona 675 had years and years and years of not only winning races, but absolutely like up in the mountains and up in the canyons being like the bike that you want. The R9 could get there, but it ain't there yet. It would take quite a bit. And plus, those bikes were race bred. The R9's not. The R9 is just a awesome street bike that happens to do handling and acceleration and sound and subjective things like that very, very well. But it's never going to be a footnote because it is the bike that kicked open the door for those super middleweights, for lack of a better way to describe them. It's the bike that opened that up for those other bikes. DM saying, keep it until Yamaha fixes that R7. Ain't that the truth? All they need. Oh my gosh. Just, you got the engine. Little bit smaller bore, little bit smaller stroke. That's it. R1, CP4, a little bit smaller, 800 cc's maybe. God, wouldn't that be awesome? Paul was saying R9 standing on the business for sure. Asking how does the the R7 need fixing? B had an answer a few episodes ago. He had a good recipe. So here's how the R7 for me. So you have to remember where the nameplate comes from. R7 was actually their 750 cc, the YZF R750. You take it's a great bike. The problem with the R7 is that it suffers from its own success. But you get guys like me that look at it and go, it's not a real R7. Just like you get guys like me that look at the Daytona 660 and go, that's not a real Daytona. So you've got old farts like me that make noises like that come out of our mouths. But the thing is with the R7, make it a 4-cylinder, make it a cross plane, just a smaller 4-cylinder, and then send that out there. But then that would now take the place of the R9. So they can't do that. So then I'm happily, married to the R9 at that point. Paulo's saying R9 seems to be viewed as a mellow do-it-all. Yeah, that replaced the beloved R6. And that's the thing. So for you guys that don't know, there's an interesting statistic. How do I say this? Okay, so the R6, Yamaha literally couldn't make it anymore. Not because of emissions. Yamaha simply couldn't make it and sell it because it cost Yamaha too much money to make. That bike had more of the 600 class. The R6 was the power in those waters. Now, don't get me wrong. Love me some GSX R600, right? And it is the gruntiest of the group, but damn it, the R6 was a monster in the class because it had everything going for it from a race point of view, and it cost Yamaha a lot of money to make that bike. And it was one of those things where Yamaha literally couldn't make that bike anymore unless they charged like $14,500 for it. And this is in a field with bikes that cost 11. And to sell that bike on the street for that kind of money is real difficult to do because it's a middleweight and you've got the fastest 600. Okay. But in that field, fastest doesn't mean bestest, right? And it really doesn't. So anyway, Yamaha was going to have to do something with that bike one way or another. And as it turns out, they made the R9. So here we are. I was like, oh, the 0W01 was the original. 0W02 was even better. I'd say a bunch of old dudes saying 9mm, no way to my 1911. Won 2 world wars. Who needs an M4? I know, right? My grand beat Mustache Man. It was good, and now it's gooder. Yeah, I'm with you, DM. I'm hoping that this helps to bring in another golden era for motorcycles. Yeah, but the stopping power. Hey, Brembo style limits. It's the 45 ACP of brakes, right? No, really. I mean, look, the problem is that there won't be a golden era without bikes like the R9. They're just too good at, and you hear me keep saying this, but answering the question, right? They're too good at being motorcycle, and no, they're not as good as being race appliance, but that's a good thing, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a race bike to be a good street bike. Okay. You've got to be a great race bike to be a race bike. But a lot of times, everything that makes that bike work well on the street or even work on the street or be available for homologation for the street, dude, I mean, it's gonna be so many compromises to make it work on the street for that bike, or it's going to be so much race that you don't even want to throw a leg over it because the general public can't be on the thing for more than 30 minutes without complaining about it because it's buzzing their wrist off, or they got them all contorted up, or you got to be a very small framed individual to be able to fit on it because it's made for jockeys and not people. All of that comes into play. And all of that is the whole reason why that class of bikes was moved away from at one point. So yeah, it's good to have the R9 back in, but I will say this, another bike that'll bring this back eventually, definitely seeding the crops, right? But it's the R7. The R7 is so good at what it does, at just being sport bike, motorcycle, entry level, get your feet wet type of a bike for guys and gals. Folks that maybe not necessarily want to get into track days, although it's a great bike for the novice to get on and get out there and have fun with. But it's an awesome street bike for doing B and C road stuff and learning how to be comfortable on the side of the tire and looking through your corner and learning how to trail brake and learning when to accelerate out of corners. That's your R7. And bikes like that make it real easy to graduate from that bike, get real comfortable with that. And then what's the next bike you move into? It's an R9, because the R7, it's a parallel twin. And so, yeah, you're going to be in an R9 and it's going to be relatively familiar because they're both very punchy. You do your doodads on the R9, and then now from there, where do you go? When you're comfortable with Yamahas, get you an R1 if you can find one. But I think you get the idea. At no point in there was somebody leaning into a 4-cylinder super sport unless they found that they're more comfortable with the smaller bike and they want the top end scream that they get out of those old school style super sports, but they just don't have the technology. And I think that for somebody that's of that mindset, they're not worried about technology anyway. Let's see. Oh, Paul is saying, I would say it's a golden era of riding now. We have so many choices. We have it all. And in a way, you do have it all. And that's a good way to looking at it. But here's the thing. I'm just glad to see the super sport class getting so much attention, because that really is an awesome class to watch. There's so much diversity in the class. You got companies from Italy, China, Japan. You got them from everywhere, right? If they're making motorcycles that would fit into the class, they're MV Agusta's in there. So you've got all kinds of cool stuff that is available to see in the class, and there's so many different layers of competition. You've got the 675s are still competitive in that class. Triumph, are you listening? So you've got so many different cool bikes that are in that class, so many different looks. And you know what is cool about Super Sport? And I'm not saying this as a participation trophy thing. No, you either win the race or you don't. But the cool thing about the Super Sport class is that it works phenomenally well for companies. You don't have to win. All you have to do is compete. And I think that really is the most important thing. You don't have to win the fight. You just got to be in the fight. And a lot of times that gives people a lot of notice. Look at QJ, for example. QJ with, what is it, the 801 or the 901? The 901, whatever it is. Anyway, it doesn't matter. QJ, even though I can't remember the name of the bike, I remember that QJ is racing, and I know that they're not winning, but they're still out there competing. And that to me says a lot. And then everybody else that's out in the field too, you can see some really cool stuff going around a track. And that to me tells me that motorcycle in general is alive and doing well. Oh, Matt saying, my hope is that bikes like the R7 and R9 bring in an entire new generation of riders and keep the sport alive. I like bowling, but it's a dying sport. Like paintball, it's dying. Tell you what, I haven't been bowling in a long time. I used to like going bowling. Whatever happened? Tell you what, the local bowling alley over here is always packed, though. DM saying, I think if bikes like the R9 get people interested in bikes, the competition will happen again, and just be just said it. Yeah, and that's the thing. If you've got the competition, and if you've got the sales, and you've got the demand, people are going to start building bikes. And I'm surprised. Well, I'm not surprised. So Suzuki's not going to change what's making them successful. So don't look for Suzuki to ever do anything with the Gixxer middleweights. They're going to remain legacy bikes probably until the forever time. Kawasaki, on the other hand, I would like to see them maybe. I mean, the 636 they sell every one of those bikes that they make. And they're reasonably inexpensive. They really need to get their QC together. I don't know. I don't know what to think about the 636. I really like that bike. It just didn't fit me. But Triumph, seriously, Triumph. I mean, you make the engines for Moto 2 for crying out loud, and you don't have a fairinged middleweight. How do you make 675 crate in or 765 crate engines for Moto 2, and you don't have a fully faired middleweight? That math ain't math. DM saying, oh, yep, you beat me to it. Exactly. Talking about the R7 bringing in the R9, bringing in new riders. Absolutely, I agree. And Matt says, good point. Accessibility and approachability matters a ton to keeping the sport alive. That's exactly right. And look, super sports are not accessible or approachable. There is a hard edge to those bikes, and that's something that has to be taken into account. And it's got to be considered. And again, that's why we have bikes like the R9, the RCR, and the V2 Panigale, and whoever else shows up to the party at this point to get in on this super middleweight side of the super sport class. DM saying, will Kawi make a 936? It's funny you say that. I'm still wondering why the Z900 doesn't have a full fairing. And by the way, the Z900 RS now does have the Z900 engine in it, at least by all accounts. Makes the same horsepower at the rear tire anyway. It's a powerful engine. Thing makes like 120 to the rear tire. Could you imagine that bike with a full fairing? I mean, seriously, that would be a really hard bike to say no to. I mean, it's a 955. I get it. It wouldn't fit in any class, but you won't ever see me on another Kawasaki. It's going to have to be that bike in that configuration with a set of clip-ons. And I might have to think about that bike. But yeah, they need to do something. Kawi's, I don't know. They keep selling all the 636s and they're doing good. And that bike is a profit center for that branch of Kawasaki heavy industry. Maybe if Chevy made a ZL6SS, maybe it would help. At this stage of the game, anything I think would help. Yeah, they had the Ninja 1000, now the 1100, which is funny because the 1000 is really more like 1036 and the 100 is 1070 something. But yeah, do something with the Z900 platform. Put a fairing on it. I'm just not. I like naked bikes like the MT-07 and the GSX 8R, but it's the rest of the field that I'm just like, I don't know. Oh, dang. With that, guys, I do have to wrap it up. We are coming up on 2 hours. Man, we haven't done a 2 hour show in forever. But always start off. We're having a short show tonight. We get 2 hours in. Guys, thank y'all so very much. I do have to check out again, DM. Thank you so much for the support, brother. Do appreciate that by miles, man. Thank you so much. Matt, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it very much as well. Man, I didn't, you know what I didn't do? I didn't give the hearts out, man. What is wrong with me? I got so excited. There we go. But guys, thank you all so very much. Truly, honest to God, appreciate all the support. But with that, guys, I got to wrap it up. Listen, guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way more than you know. And thanks again. And I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Y'all take it easy.